Okay, hi guys, welcome back to Coffee with Corsini. We are here for another week, and I am Bronwyn Mefford. I'm a senior here at San Diego Christian, and I'm here with Dr. Corsini, and this week we have a special guest, Professor John Liu.
What's
So
up?
welcome.
It's time for Coffee with Corsini.
How are you doing, John Liu?
Doing great. It's awesome to be here.
I'm glad. So this is Coffee with Corsini, so the first question I have to ask you is, what's your coffee order, or do you drink coffee at all?
So it's really interesting. In college, I used to be obsessed with coffee, so I stopped it because it was like messing with my adrenals. So I haven't had regular coffee probably the last 4 years. So now if I get a coffee, it's just because I want something sweet. So I'll go with like a frappuccino.
Okay, the milkshake of coffees.
Yep, basic, very basic.
Okay, I can relate to that though. I gave up coffee too. I was too jittery of a person. Okay, so we're gonna get right into the questions. John Liu, you are a professor here, but you are also the chair of the communications department. So can you explain what being a chair is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as the chair of a department, one of the biggest things that we do is to actually lead our area expertise. So, I am the chair of communication, which means at San Diego Christian College, that's one of the 10 degrees that we offer. So, any student that's in the communication department, I'm kind of like the lead for that department. And so, two main jobs with that. One, we build those personal relationships with the students, and so we serve as their advisors for all their academics, their classics. One of the big things that I do as a chair is to basically make out their plan for what classes they're going to take and how soon they can graduate. That's actually the biggest conversation we have.
Mm-hmm.
And then also as the chair of the department, the second thing is all the administrative duties. So we're the ones that kind of look at the program, assess it to make sure we're offering the best classes and opportunities for our students.
Cool.
John,
That's really cool.
communications, that's like a huge area. Like, I can't think of a job that communication isn't involved in. What all does a student do with a communications degree if they pursue this program?
Yeah, it's such a great question, Dr. Corsini. You know, I remember when I first kind of entered the world of communication, I felt like that's kind of like an easy degree, right? Because it's like doesn't everybody talk? But what's so interesting is with a communication degree, it's actually an opportunity for a student to enter any field. And so one of the things that I often tell my students is if you're interested in the medical field but don't know if you want to be the surgeon, you could still be a communication major in the medical field. If you're interested in politics but don't know if you want to be the lawyer or the judge, you could still enter politics as a communications major. If you're interested in business, if you're interested in marketing, if you're just a creator, maybe the film industry, all those areas, almost any area, going to the grocery store, leading kids clubs, working in a church, a youth ministry, all of those areas use some kind of communication. And so as a student in communication, being this broad subject, one of the things that we do, and we created a program where you get to taste a little bit of everything. So you have classes in the media realm, you have classes in the interpersonal communication realm. I'm teaching several classes in the psychology realm because that's a little bit more of my background. And so a lot of these classes are to prepare you kind of to see all these different types of fields. And what's interesting is students taking these different classes, they actually become interested in maybe this could apply into like a real life or a real job. And that's how we lead our program. One of the biggest mottos that I have for all the professors and students that are with us, we are education to vocation. So every project, every class, every assignment, I ask my instructors, I ask my professors and faculty within our program to make sure to make it practical to what the student will see in the workplace. And so a lot of the projects that I do are that way, and a lot of the discussions that we do are real life examples that they would find in a real work job.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so important. I think a lot of times as a freshman we can get frustrated because we have to take a lot of gen eds that don't have to do a lot with what we are actually interested in. And so the second that we can taste and see of the communications department or business or anything in that world, I think that's so important. And that's really cool that you can make it applicable to what people will actually use later in life.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. So the next question that we're going to ask is, what's the best part of the communications department? I mean, I know you might be a little biased, but what do you think is the best part?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like lately we've been having like a strong competition with the business department.
Go business.
You know, they may be big and great in numbers, but we are mighty in spirit. Okay, so here's actually, this is something our students, I think, are some of the most personal students on campus and very relation driven. So I've had faculty that had communication students in their classes, and they constantly say that they love teaching communication students because those are the students oftentimes that are more apt to asking questions, engaging, taking notes, you know, being the leaders in the class project or so forth. And so that's just the nature of being a communication student. But when you're asking, like, what's the best part of my department? I was thinking about that as more a little bit of like one of the things that we really push, and it's just the authenticity. Like, I think in the day and the age that we live in today, it's like, you know, Instagram shows filters and people are hard to like be vulnerable and like share their opinions without being attacked. Well, in the communication department, I feel like really one of the things that we are trying to push is for people to be able to share their opinions, share their views, be authentically themselves, and for us to hear them out, have a conversation. And I think that's something that we really get to experience in the department. That translates into fun things. In November, we're going to do like a big department gathering. We're excited for that. And just building that community. I love seeing my students build relationships and becoming best friends with other students in the program.
And, you know, I want to springboard off of something you said, you know, because you kind of compared business and communications, you know, clearly that they're closely related. And we think about the world that we live in today. It is a media-driven world. I mean, well, our lives to such a large extent are driven by the media, whether it's social media or what we see on the news or what's in our feed each morning. So in your opinion, John, why is it important for us to understand this world of communications?
That's such a great question, Dr. Corsini. And I'm actually teaching a class that's called Media Literacy right now. And in that class, our communication students are basically looking at what it means to have media literacy. And so the world promotes media like it's water that you drink or food that you eat, right? But a lot of times people are taking that in with now realizing what they're actually taking in. And so I think one of the things that I really invest in my students is for them to be leaders in how they're evaluating media and how they're evaluating messages, and more importantly, in how they're evaluating what they're putting into their lives, right? And so oftentimes when you have like Instagram, or you go to like a Facebook platform, or even Google, YouTube, you can actually go on your phone and you can see how many hours you spend on various apps. I don't know if that's something someone has ever looked at. Go into your settings. It's a little shocking, so warning, you might be a little shocked. But it will say like you spend 6, 7, 8, 15 hours a day on your phone. And then it'll actually break down how many different apps, you know, how much time you spend in those apps. Now, I have my students look at those kind of things. And the thing is that media can be a really powerful tool that we can use to, you know, work, to make a living, to get closer to God, to build relationships, to connect. But it can also be a very detrimental thing. And I think whether that's mental health issues, or that's maybe getting into things that are not productive as Christians, or maybe just as individuals, having that kind of opportunity to really evaluate media messages, evaluate media platforms, evaluate just like the people behind it, gives you not only the ability to be a discerning individual, but ultimately, I think God calls us to do that. I tell my students that like God is a God of, you know, questioning and making sure, like, you know, if you seek Him, you will find Him. And that's the same thing. It's like, as you seek to understand something, hey, why is this being shown? Why is this being said? How is this being told? You can be a great leader in a world of a lot of people just like not knowing what to listen to, what to watch. So I think it's just an opportunity for our students and for anyone that really wants to be a leader in the world. If you understand communications, you can help people kind of go through the world of media.
Yeah, totally. So with that, and great leaders in the topic of strong communicators, what are some success stories from students that you might have had or have currently that are using what they're learning in class and applying it to their work, jobs? Do you have any stories of that?
Yeah, so I mean, what's exciting is I've been the chair of communication and and for a year. So this is my second year on this. And so I got to invest a lot of time into the seniors that graduated last May, in May 2021. And one of the biggest things that I took from that is I did change the program a lot to a more, again, like practice vocation based. So what was really unique was we had students that were excited about the field that they were going into, but they didn't know how to get there, right? And so just some practical things about like interview prep, resume building, even just professionalism of how to dress or how to speak and stuff like that. Like those kind of things I focus on. Now they sound basic, but they really get people into those jobs. And so, I mean, I've had 2 students who I know have already landed the jobs that they thought they couldn't land.
Wow.
One in the service industry, hospitality. I have a background in hotels too, so I was able to get a connection there, which shout out to anyone listening. You have no idea how important connections are.
Yeah.
I tell my students, if you have a connection, sometimes it's who you know that can get you to places that you didn't think you could get to. And so that, but also another student who just honestly used what she had learned in classes to professionally set herself to have a portfolio that in her interview process was able to just show her expertise in that area and got a job within the kind of the sports industry that she was looking
And
at.
how exciting for you is that you have taught them and they get to go out into the career that you've actually helped them progress in. So that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's the goal. You know, I know as a student, like you oftentimes are studying to like reach your dreams, but you know, whether you get to that dream that you had already had, that's a goal, but I also like to like get people to figure out what that dream is. And so I think I have a lot of students, juniors and seniors right now who are right now, like in the this very moment, trying to figure out like where do they see themselves, and we're trying to get them to that point.
Cool.
John, you talk about dreaming big. I know that you are someone who encourages, not only do you love your students, but you encourage them to dream big, right? You challenge them to chase big things. And even just now as we're talking, your enthusiasm for our students just like coming through your pores, like how excited you get. I'm curious for you though, you're a big dreamer. What sort of things are you working on outside of this place?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I've told
And
my
I just want to note, Ron, when you notice, every time I ask a question, it's a really good question. Yours, mine are brilliant questions. You're gonna go back. We go back and rewind. Mine are phenomenal.
No problems. Your questions have been really amazing. I'm sorry. I should probably be like, maybe yours make me think a lot more. Okay, so I told my students.
Well, Bronwyn gave me these questions, so she really deserves all the credit for this.
There we go. A lot of people have asked me, like, oh, so, like, is teaching, like, your passion, your career? And I do say teaching is one of my passions. It's actually sometimes hard for me to classify being a professor as my job because I like it so much, like, when you like something, like, are you really working, So, but it is my passion. And actually, one of the things that I've told my students is that when you figure out, like, what your like life passion is, then you can figure out all the different jobs you can have. And so if I put it into words, my passion is to help people, And so teaching fits into that. But another thing that I think has fit into that is nonprofit. So I actually have a huge passion for helping homeless children and orphans. I was actually adopted, and as a child, I live in Bogota, Colombia, South America, very poor. And that's a whole other, story for another time. But because of my background and understanding, not having a lot, and then now I'm in this place, like my passion is helping children like that. And so I started a nonprofit called werent, and that's a huge thing that I do put a lot of time, of my extra time into. Academically, though, I'm also trying to become Dr. Liu. So officially, I'm working on finishing my PhD. It's in applied linguistics. I don't know why I picked such a hard PhD. Honestly, sometimes, getting through the coursework was one thing, and then now doing this original dissertation study, it's taken me about 4 years, but I'm at the end of it, and hopefully I'll be defending sometime next spring at the latest. And so I'm excited to get done. It is very hard to sit down and write papers and do that. But yeah, those would be like 2 other things that I put a lot of time into.
Wow,
That's
really
awesome.
Cool. Yeah, you sound like a busy man, Professor Lou, but that's really cool. And how cool that you are so passionate about teaching and you have time to do stuff that you are also passionate about in your other interests and stuff. So that's super cool. So as we're wrapping up the questions about communication and anything, do you have just something that you want to leave the students with, either your best piece of advice when it comes to college life or really anything that you want to tell them? You can go ahead and give them a little bit of information, a little bit of, I don't know, advice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think I am a younger professor. Like, I mean, it's no doubt. If you look at me, you're like, wow, you're pretty young. A lot of people kind of ask how I got into it, and I have been teaching in college for about 10 years. So I was very lucky. I finished my undergrad and got into a graduate teaching assistant program. So I've been with college students for now 10 years, but I've also been in that process a student myself. And because of that, I think one of the things I really constantly tell my students is just take a moment to enjoy the time you're in. It's so easy to just look at a syllabus, look at a semester, I can't wait for it to be done. I can't wait for it to be done. Okay, here's the next set of classes that I have to get it done. And I was just telling someone yesterday who I was just advising, and I said, before you know it, right now it's the midterm exam or the final exam, and you want it to be done. Or it's I want to be done with this year, or I want to be done with this degree. And you always think the grass is greener on the other side, that you forget to enjoy the incredible, time that you have right now. So I just say, enjoy every minute of it. Look at the people that are around you, whether they're other professors or students that you get to interact with, and really get the most out of this experience. I think that I cannot stress that enough. Take a moment to breathe. That paper will be okay. The stress of the midterms, the projects are part of life, but as you learn to kind of just see and appreciate each of those moments, you'll be able to kind of figure out, again, some of those passions and some of those things that really were really helpful for you. No. And another note, have fun. Please. I mean, I'm a busy individual, but I do a lot of fun things. I'm running a marathon this Sunday. Okay. So I'm not a runner, but I told myself...
You're going to be a runner on Sunday.
I mean, I'm going to fake being a runner. So, if anyone wants to, again, my family was even telling me, you're not a runner, why are you doing this? And I'm like, I don't know, but maybe it's just to prove them wrong, So, do things that maybe you think you can't do, have fun, and enjoy the process.
No, that's so good. I'm a senior this year, and I'm also, while getting my undergrad, getting my master's degree. So I can kind of relate to the fact that life is busy, and right now I'm currently looking at homework assignments thinking I can't wait to be done. But I think that's such good advice because you can wish it away, and it goes way faster than you would think. So that's such a good piece of advice. So,
and John, 5K, man. 5K. You can start with the 5K, man. You're jumping right in with the marathon, man. That's great.
You know that I've never run a 5K. Dude. I've never run a half marathon. I've never run a 10K. But I've been training for this marathon. Because here's the thing. I'm not a runner, so I just want to do the biggest thing and then never do it again. So that's my goal. Yes.
Okay, well, we'll be praying
next week on Cardiac Arrest with Corsini with John Lou, right?
I'll be coming in a wheelchair.
No
we'll
joke.
Have ice ready for you.
Man, you're serious.
In the athletic offices that can help you out with that. Okay, Dr. Corsini, for our weekly update, we hosted Netcap College Fair. What exactly is that? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so NICAP, it's an acronym for, essentially, it's a National Association of Christian Colleges, and they do recruiting events for Christian colleges and universities, and we were asked to actually host. So we are hosting, we hosted this year's NICAP Fair here in Southern California just a couple days ago. It was a really big honor. So students from all over the place who are looking at different Christian colleges got to be hosted, got to see a bunch of different schools. We were the primary host. Actually took place over at Skyline. Great opportunity for us, though, in a field where there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Christian colleges and universities, and yet we get to host this particular event. Great opportunity for us as a college and just to get more exposure, not just to students, but also to other schools. Great event for us.
Cool. And I just wanted to give a big thank you to Rise City. We just had chapel with them, and they did such an awesome job. I love chapel on Wednesdays, and I like to see the college ministries that are around us. I've actually gone to 2 college ministries that came to talk to us because of them coming to chapel. So that was really fun, too. They killed it. this chapel.
Yeah, Rice City, great partner of ours. Love seeing them here on campus. And in the evenings, fun time during the day, fun time during the night. What just happened?
We just had movie on the lawn too. It was spooky movie night. So I think the only spooky thing about it was how cold it was, but it was still it was still really fun, and we had some yummy snacks.
Is it really ever cold in San Diego though?
I mean, at nighttime.
Ask other people in the north. They'll be laughing at us.
I'm literally Canadian, and I think when it's like 60 degrees, it is so
It was like in the 60 degrees. It was so freezing.
That's what I have my house at, 60 degrees. I'm the air conditioning guy, so.
Oh, that's funny. No, my family back in Canada make fun of me because they just think I'm a wimp now. But you know what? It's fine.
It's okay.
So for our last little bit of our podcast, we always do rapid fire questions. So Professor Lou, we're gonna do some rapid fire questions with you. And Dr. Corsini, you're not getting out of it this week. You also are answering.
So are we both answering, or one goes to him, one comes to me? How's this gonna work?
Let's do Professor Lou, you go first.
Okay.
And then Dr. Corsini, you answer.
All right.
Okay? So first thing that comes to your mind. So Professor Lou, what's something that recently moved you?
It's a really good question. First thing comes to mind. Wow, this is scary. I'm really bad with rapid questions. I watched a documentary about, actually slavery.
Oh, wow.
And just recently, and it was just like, it really opened up my perspective to different voices. So.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Corsini, what about you?
I was in church this past Sunday, and it was talking to an older woman who was sitting next to me and next to me and my wife, and just heard her story. And she had just recently, in the last year or so, lost her husband, and which is sad, very sad. And she's an older woman, but she's sitting by herself, and she was talking about how kind of lonely it was coming to church sitting by herself. I was like, man, I hadn't even really thought of that, of being an older person sitting by themselves. And then I looked to my left. And to our left, and it was another older woman sitting by herself. Talked to her just, briefly, and same type of story. Her husband died about 8-9 years ago, but she comes to church and a lot of times doesn't have anybody. Come to find, there were 4 different elderly women sitting around us, all widows. Same type of story, all sitting by themselves. And my heart just broke for them, because I guess for me, even they're kind of invisible. You think, some old, some older woman who's in her 70s or 80s, she's established, she's set. And to have 4 of them around us and realize, man, there are widows all around us here that are lonely and don't have, and it's like my heart just broke for them. And it, made me realize on a Sunday morning, if I see someone sitting by, alone, how hard is it for me to say, hey, can we sit here with you, introduce ourselves and build relationships? It's a population in the church that, I don't know, that just moved my heart. I just realized, man, there's an opportunity there to love on people. Just as simple as, hey, can I sit with you this morning in church so they don't have to be alone?
Yeah. That's so good. That's really good. Professor Lou, who is your favorite mentor or teacher?
That's I would say one of my spiritual mentors is actually Jesse Jacobs.
Okay.
He is a local pastor here in North Park, and just such a real, authentic guy. Loves the Lord, and ultimately, he has been such a great example for me of how to live like a Christian life grounded in Scripture, but also being an advocate for those that don't know the Lord, right? So being relatable yet grounded in truth. And so I would have to say he's 100% my spiritual mentor. And
Dr. Corsini, your favorite mentor or teacher?
Yeah, I just switched. I had an answer in my mind, and I switched. I would probably go back to my junior high youth pastor. Who was probably just when you're in junior high, everyone's big grown adults, but he had big old beard, big guy, and he's probably just a kid himself, right? He's probably just early 20s, one of his first jobs out of college. But man, that guy just loved on me. He just cared about me. I was not invisible in his youth group. He'd always come up and talk to me. And the one thing he used to say to me all the time is, "Kevin, you're a good man." And as a 13-year-old kid in junior high, man, that stuck with me. And he had a profound impact on my life. He helped me see myself in a different way. And, he just loved on me. He just made sure that I was seen, that I was known. He was always there on a Sunday morning to say, hey, hey, come over, sit over here. And that changed the trajectory of my life just because he made an investment in me. And he probably has no idea. The truth is he probably has absolutely no idea the type of impact he made on my life. But those couple of years that I was in his youth group, he made me feel like I was somebody. And that was a big deal.
What a blessing to have people in your life like that. Okay, switching things up, on a little bit of a lighter note, what was the last thing you baked?
Cinnamon rolls. I did cinnamon rolls
I'm making
2
some
weeks
today.
ago. Yeah.
I'm making some today.
Brownies last night. Duncan
Oh, there
Hines
you go.
movie night. It's amazing.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yum.
Yeah.
Okay, what's one thing you need in your fridge at all times?
For me, it's ranch. I love ranch. I put ranch on everything. Sorry.
Butter. I go through so much butter. I use
Ranch
butter
and
all the time. Put butter on everything. I'm gonna make scrambled eggs. I start out with butter. You know, I'm gonna make toast. I gotta have butter, right? I use real butter all the time in everything.
I love it.
I just
You
look for
heard it here.
excuses to use butter.
You heard it here first, folks. Ranch and butter are the two best condiments.
Oh man, I'm all about some butter.
Okay, what is one thing that you've kept from your childhood?
So for me, it would be all my Boy Scout stuff. So I'm actually an Eagle Scout, and actually I feel like that's one of my biggest accomplishments. Is like from being a kid up to I think I finished when I was 17. But all my Eagle like merit badges stuff and my sashes and stuff. So I literally have like a little box that's like John's Boy Scout, Eagle Scout stuff.
That's awesome.
That's literally probably the only thing I have from my childhood.
Eagle Scout. Wow.
That's a flex.
I don't have anything that cool. When I was 9 years old, I got. This is a longer story, but when I was 9 years old, I got hit by a car. I got hit by a truck. I was on a green machine, like a big wheel, went out in the street.
Oh wow!
Got hit by a car.
Wow.
Yeah, broke my nose, cracked a couple vertebrae, and I was in the hospital for about a month. 9 years old, was during 4th grade. Anyways, but somebody gave me a stuffed dog, and the whole month that I was in the hospital, and then a couple months I had to recover. That stuffed dog, just sat on my chest as I was flat in bed. And his name was Augie Doggy. It was a stuffed dog, and I have him to this day. He's actually in my closet. And just last week, for the very first time, I realized Joshua, my 16-month-old son, he loves dogs. He's all about. I was like, you know what? I have a stuffed dog from when I was a kid. I pulled it out, and he absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. He just thought it was the greatest thing ever. This big old stuffed dog. So now I've gotten a chance finally to pass it on to him.
That's so cool.
That's so cute. Okay, Professor Lou, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Mind control. And like maybe telekinesis with that, like where you can move things with your mind.
Oh, okay.
100%. I want to
That's
control
cool.
the world. Communication major,
I want to control the world. Of course.
Mine would be to defend kinetic, powers. So those sorts of things, that's I would be able to defend that at any given. No, mine would be to fly. Absolutely. I have amazing dreams about flying. I would love to. Last week you asked me what animal. I'd want to be a bird. I would love to be able to fly. I'd be back over those mountains in a heartbeat. I'd just be flying all over the place.
Okay, and last question we have is, if you weren't doing what you do right now, what would you be doing?
So that is definitely something I've thought about. And I would say I may still do it in my future. You never know, right? Because it's that great. So if I wasn't a professor, I think I would either be like a lawyer or in politics. Because I do like politics. So I've always thought maybe I would run for office at some point. Or the other thing is being a therapist. So like a psychologist and work with people. I love that one-on-one type of thing. So I could totally see myself being like a therapist.
That's cool.
All right. So if I wasn't a president, I would be a teacher. I would love to be back in the class. It was my favorite job I ever had, was being a teacher. And whether it was a professor at a college or a university or being a 2nd grade teacher, I love to teach. When I was working on my graduate degree, I was a substitute teacher, and I would substitute kindergarten through 5th grade. And even that, I just loved it. I love teaching. So if I could just go be a teacher at any level, I would love that.
That's cool. Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us. Dr. Corsini, thank you for being here yet again. Even it is your talk
Bronwyn,
show,
you
so.
didn't answer. You need to answer one of these questions, Bronwyn. If you could do anything, have any job other than being a college president and doing this podcast, other than that, what would you, if you could do anything? Yeah.
If I could do absolutely anything,
for a living,
I would get paid to travel. And
not
I don't
bad.
even know, I guess that's being an influencer, but I definitely don't
There you
want to
go.
be an influencer. I want to just do it without the social media.
Like
which
a travel blogger.
Yeah.
That's
which
cool.
is
There you
ironic
go.
because...
Hey, you know what you should be? You should be a comm major.
No, I'm marketing. kidding. You can't steal me from the business
There
department.
we go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Bronwyn will have a meeting with me about that. No, just kidding.
Sounds like we got business after this
Professor G will be mad at you
podcast.
if he tries to take
Yeah.
me. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun. We will see you guys next week, except, well, I'll see you next week, Dr. Corsini. I won't see you, Professor Lou. But thank you for joining us, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week.
Thank you for having
May all your coffees be wonderful. Have a great week.
me.